let me introduce to you Joe Mancini. So Joe is out of Montgomery County Community College, which is in Bluebell, right? Is that Bluebell,
That is
Pennsylvania?
correct. Yep.
I only know that because my parents are from Jersey and Pennsylvania, so I know the area a little bit. School, I don't know, 8,600 FTE roughly, right? Something like that.
A little lower now, but yeah, just over 10,000 unique students.
Okay. Joe has been with us as a partner for about 2 years. I met Joe at EDUCAUSE 2 years ago. He has been a really tremendous driver of certain elements of the platform. He started talking to our CEO about the concept of tasks. And I know that some of you are starting to look at tasks and the task engine inside of our system as something you may be turning on soon. Joe kind of started that whole conversation. And I think we're even going to hear a little bit about some of that today. But Joe, do you want to say anything else in introduction of yourself as
no. Thanks for the invitation to speak today. Really glad to participate in this event and see that the company is now at the point where we're having this event in the first place. Just want to thank you for inviting us.
Absolutely. All right. So I really want folks to hear that. To start off, you guys just won a NASPA award.
Right.
So can you tell us a little bit about that award and how it came to be and what it kind of means to you guys at MCCC?
Yeah, before I get into that, I just want to explain the project at Montgomery a little bit. So for us, campus truly is our portal for everyone at the college. As Jeff said, we began about 2 years ago. We went live literally a year ago, but really didn't move into production until July. And that was intentional this past July. We had wanted, because it's such a forklift of a change for us, we had wanted to do it between the 2 summer semesters so it would kind of have the least impact as possible. So we took our time. We actually did a little proof of concept, but we took our time in developing our integrations but we did go live, and we thought of not going live in July, but we kept with it. It's awful difficult to do a forklift project such as this during the pandemic, but we thought, of course, that it would help students remain engaged when in a remote fashion, so we stuck with it. Another thing I want to point out about our project is that we heavily involve students. We're really proud of that. We involve students even we made selection of the campus tool to really understand how they wish to be communicated. This is really all about communications, as we just learned to us at Montgomery. And we continue to include students. Actually, one of our team members, Angela, she may be watching, but she is our director of digital usability, and she manages a group of about a dozen students each semester that are diversely selected across the student body to really provide us input into any number of things. This group has become really very well known throughout the college. Our executive team uses it regularly, but we primarily want to use it for technical insight, communications, things of that nature. And they told us all along that this was going in the right direction. They named the tool for it. We named our implementation Montco Connect, again using that connect word. So I just wanted to point out we involve students. We're proud of that, and really has made a difference, I think, on some of the decisions we made. Whenever we thought we were going to go left, students told us that we needed to go right, and it was really very useful. As far as the NASPA award, yeah, we were one of over 10 schools selected of over 100 that applied for this. The award was related to, it was funded by the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation to really highlight and research and understand schools going above and beyond with regard to remote supports. So for us, it was rather easy to write this submission. And we went into this entire project from the communications perspective, specifically from the communications of supports. We want to be in a position, and Jeff alluded to the conversation about tasks that we'll get into in a little bit, but we wanted to be in a position where we were assured that nudges or communications relative to supports that we have to offer that might help a student be successful and persist were being received. So again, it was pretty easy for us to complete that application. If you can't communicate to someone, they can't hear you, right? They can't get your message of your help that you're offering them. It's been interesting as we've gone along this project. I likened it recently to the horse whisperer. It's really an art to learn how to speak to students and know when to use what mode of communications and how. Again, we included that information on our proposal. We actually are using the funds from the award to model something that another campus customer is doing really well. Tallahassee Community College has done a great job with using groups for student peer support. So they'll have groups where students actually can pose questions of varying nature and actually help one another answer those questions, have some staff involved as well to add on to any answers that other student may have asked, etc. So we really liked that idea, and we will use the funds from this award to hire some students to help moderate that and ensure that we get answers as quickly as we can, the right answer. Also want to be sure that we kind of steer the communications in the right direction and not let it become a group for other purposes, but kind of keep it in that whole support and help kind of area.
Nice. So I'm seeing Angela's in the session, just so you know, and then hi Grant also. Good to have you here. So let's talk about some of the underpinning, the infrastructure that kind of went into you even making that proposal that won you the award. When you and I first met at EDUCAUSE 2 years ago, you really had the concept of nudges front and center. You wanted to be super purposeful, very intentional, but also kind of do it in ways that you had not been able to do it to that point. And I know that you have really done some nice nudge work with campus, and you have even greater plans in the future. Can you tell folks about what nudges are to you and what that looks like in your context?
Yeah, I call campus the fridge door in our community, so that people understand the point. And I give the story, and it's not a true story, but I tell it anyway. Anyhow, if a note is left on a fridge door, it's apt to be seen because someone's going there for another purpose. And that's what we're trying to do, is leverage the fact that this is our portal, and that you need to go there because of that fact, and you can't get to the learning management system or anything else at Montgomery because of that. And B, maybe there's some engaging content there that you're interested in. At Montgomery, we have over 120 student clubs or student groups created on the platform, many of which are clubs, etc. So there's something drawing you to the platform and secondly. And then hopefully you see this communications about a resource that we have. So currently a lot of these nudges are kind of broadcast in nature. We have a group where all students are members, and we cyclically have a calendar of communications that our team puts out. And another thing about our project I'm proud of, it's a very collaborative project. We just met actually earlier today. We continue to meet with the implementation team, and it's largely made up of people in our marketing communications and our student enrollment and services areas. So those folks have a calendar of communications. They know, like, at this point in the semester, we'd like to nudge students to this resource, etc. Our goal is to get that to be very personalized and be very exact with, we see you haven't used the tutoring center, maybe you might want to consider doing so. I think we'd say it a little differently than that. But you haven't met with your advisor. Here's how you schedule some time with that advisor. Here's a link to make an appointment. So we really do want to get very personal with that. We want to integrate it to the extent that if you've met with your advisor already or made that appointment, the nudge goes away. Yeah, that's our vision, is to be able to leverage campus in a very personalized way to communicate those resources.
So I'm curious, we've got folks in here who have probably implemented already, just as you have. But we always try to suggest to people, you can go back, you can fix, you can adjust. What are some of the things that you would have, maybe if you could go back in time and adjusted your rollout, your expectations, whatever it might be, what would you say to folks who are in that place where they're thinking, should I tweak this? Should I not tweak this? And then, how are the decisions you did make that you've kind of stuck with? How's that all going?
Yeah, well, I mean, as I said, we did this, went live during the pandemic. I mean, there were actually several months right after March, about a year ago, where we did not work on this project at all, just because we were trying to kind of pivot and, like everyone else, respond to the pandemic. So that certainly made this a challenging project. We're also trying to change culture. And you know, in addition to this being a forklift-sized project, we're really trying to change the way in which the organization communicates to students. And if I've learned anything, it's that is something that requires obviously a lot of time, but a lot of patience and also some thick skin. I think some people are going to be very willing to jump in, and some people are kind of dragging their feet a little bit. I think, and that's maybe unfair to say that, you know, we had a lot of employees and even students say, this change, I get why you're doing it. I'm on board. I just can't deal with it right now with all the other responsibilities and stress on my plate because of the pandemic right now. I just can't get into it right now. So unfortunately, that was challenging, but I think changing culture, regardless of the situation we find ourselves, is really a challenging thing, almost perhaps more challenging than implementing the technology itself. So I would say, as far as recommendations and lessons learned, it's just patience, perhaps, and that this is really a multi-year project and not something that we'd be able to achieve overnight.
So you mentioned the nudges to us and sort of the future of nudges and those sorts of things. And obviously that's going to require some technical stitching together of different kinds of flags and triggers, right? But at the same time, in conversations that you and I have had, you've talked about students getting information in different ways and faculty and staff getting information in different ways. I think you even have a story that you've told me about feeds and not just the campus activity feed, but in feeds to go in to reach people in different ways using pictures and illustrations, stuff like that. Can you tell everybody some of that story?
Yeah, real quickly though, before I get into that, you know, I often liken communications to the entertainment industry. You know, I think we have Netflix, of course, and all that streaming, but we still go to the movie theater and we still go to Broadway. So I think at sometimes in innovation and technology, what comes next doesn't always eliminate the need for the former. And if there's anything I learned is that, like, the more modes of communications, the better. I think getting back to the student whisperer concept is knowing when to use which is really the trick, and not overburdening any one of them. More modes of communications actually lessen the pressure on any one mode. So just wanted to get that out. But as far as the feed, yeah, I think the feed was very interesting to me. I remember seeing this at EDUCAUSE because people don't click. You know, whether it's an email that we send folks with a link in it, whether it's a link on a screen in a web page, it's just challenging to get folks to use that interaction and take that action to kind of get to the resource, as opposed to just putting it in front of them in the first place. I think we're so used to the feed view in other aspects of our life where, you know, we consume such a large amount of information through an interface that is easy. You just scroll down, basically. There's no clicking. You're kind of seeing the message below the one that you're currently looking at, which kind of entices you to keep going. So there's just something about the feed view that I think is really makes it simpler to communicate a large amount of information to anyone. So the case,
yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, the case you're mentioning was with regard to employees, and we've not really put a lot of effort into employees yet with our implementation. I think, again, if the pandemic impacted us in any way, it would be the fact that we weren't able to get to the employee population, although they are using it. Faculty are actually doing some really cool conversations and things with campus. But we were approached a few weeks ago with the idea of, hey, can you put a dashboard right on the portal so that folks can see our daily enrollment reports? And it's a graphic, and it's currently being disseminated via an email. And people aren't clicking the email. They're not either going in it or clicking through all the information that's in the email. And we thought about, well, geez, we could use, I know campus has a visual kind of dashboard widget. We could perhaps use that. But one of our team members, Andrew Rosner, a brilliant person, said, yeah, how about just putting it in the feed view? And immediately I saw the benefit, like, wow, that is such a great idea, because now it could become something that's a discussion. And the team who receives this information now on a daily basis, not only hopefully sees it more regularly, but B, can communicate about it and talk about it and say, geez, that population might need some work. Have we reached out to the K-12 market recently? Have we met with high schools? Or look, the open house last week really did a great job. Our enrollment responded to that. So I just love the idea that, again, getting back to communications, disseminating that information in that way is probably something we want to do. And actually, Andrew already looked into the Campus API allows that type of automated posts within a group. So we are pursuing that concept. But we actually worked with the campus to develop what we call the academic profile. It's a little widget, the bottom right of our user screen, students when they log in, and it tells them information that we heard when we were kind of doing our listening on this project, and we talked to users throughout the college. Students don't remember what program they're assigned to, believe it or not. They don't know which campus they're assigned with. They don't remember the contact information for their advisor. They don't remember their GPA. So we got a bunch of this information, and campus helped us put it in a little profile. As I said, it's a little widget. And we had always thought about expanding that. Okay, now click on this and it can become maybe a fuller dashboard where we can surface some more information about the student, their journey, their progress towards success, etc. But as I was thinking about the example about this enrollment report, it may make more sense to try, and I don't think this is something that we can do today, but it may make more sense to send a regular, let's say once a month or something like that dashboard right in their feed view, because maybe they're more likely to see it there than taking the initiative to kind of expand something that would be hidden under that click.
Yeah. So I know that you guys worked with us, heavily in creating a couple of different widgets that have now just become out of the box widgets if people want to start using them. We've got some ability to just say, hey, call to this API and you'll have it. So thank you for that. That said, I think maybe one reason that people are here is to hear this next section, because as I mentioned at the start, Joe and Montgomery were really crucial in having us build the tasks engine. Now, again, I know that some of you have looked at tasks. You've looked at turning that on and tried to figure out how is this going to work? How's this going to look? Joe was there from the beginning and really inspired a lot of that work in the first place. I know you guys actually put it on hold for a little while because you found some other priorities, probably, again, based on the conversations you were hearing from students, and you knew you had to get some other sort of blocking and tackling down really right and really well. But the work still goes on, and you're getting ready to kind of launch into task version 1. And you have a vision for tasks version 2. I think everybody that's in here right now would really like to hear, what is tasks? What's your vision for tasks? How does it work? How do you hope that it will work over time? What does the tasks piece look like for Montgomery?
Yeah, again, we really want tasks to be something that we can almost sort of brand and like communicate to students and say, like, look, we might email you, we might text message you, whatever, but if we're actually trying to get you, if the college needs you to take action, go look here. We will keep whatever it is we're needing you to do there for you and in the task area. So we're really trying to get to that level of awareness at some point. That's our end goal. As far as we needed to delay, and some of the functionality that we're hoping to implement would be like the idea of sequence tasks, a journey. Like, so onboarding is one easy example where the student must, in some case, complete 12 tasks before they're able to even register for class, testing and transfers and whatnot. So to kind of chain those into a sequence is a really cool idea. The idea of a journey and telling a student where they are in that journey is really a very common conversation in today's higher ed world, to kind of encourage students as they go along to know where they are and where they can be. So that is really, maybe that could be something down the road, but our immediate need for this journey concept would be the onboarding example. We also want to integrate it so that it's really dynamic, so that as a student completes these, they're updated, so that we're not telling them to do something that they just did or maybe did an hour or two ago. So we're trying to get as close as possible to the point where it's dynamic in nature, not only personalized, but dynamic, reading the upstream kind of system and knowing where they are. We also want to make tasks really noticeable. There were some tweaks to the new versions where, little dots saying, you have 2 to do, those kind of things, so that as we do raise awareness, we can not only that, but tell people, like, look for that information to get some insight on, how much work we're about to ask you to do. So yeah, that's our vision. I think the biggest shame would be that we have a resource to offer a student to help them succeed, and the student doesn't know about it and ends up dropping out. That could be the biggest shame. And we're hoping that that just doesn't happen, because we're able to, again, nudge and use this task functionality to ensure students who need specific resources are directed toward them.
So Joe, I have a very just sort of pragmatic question for you. I know that when we have conversations with partners about tasks, almost every college I've ever been aware of that has a student information system probably has some kind of aggregator of tasks. Mm-hmm. However, most schools never turn that module on in their SIS or their ERP. There's really no architect of tasks at a school. Every individual department has their own tasks for their own people, and there just isn't a lot of overlap. So the question that we often get is, the tasks engine, the task delivery system, where is it getting those tasks from? What systems are you guys trying to pull it out of to push it and promote it through this refrigerator, as you said, this front door that people go to so they'll see it? Where are you getting those tasks from, and how many of those systems are you trying to sort of aggregate into this one view?
So you're asking me actually what's, I think, a very philosophical question, and that is that yes, there are certain products that attempt to provide similar functionality within their kind of ecosystem. One of the allures to me to campus was that your organization is kind of not aligned with any other product out there. You're your own product. You're your own kind of, so you're kind of independent in that regard. I'm personally interested in that type of ability, because you're more apt to be able to display information about any one system rather than just the product within your realm, if that makes any sense. So getting back to your example where, yeah, we're a partner with a very large higher ed technology company, and they can probably do a really good job at displaying information about tasks within their kind of ecosystem of products, but go outside of that and we have the same problem. They're not going to be able to do it. So I'd rather start off with a firm such as yours, where we can kind of equally integrate with any product that might be in our environment. You support the flow technology, which we were very fortunate at Montgomery to have a pretty strong IT team that has some smart people, smarter than I, who understand how to programmatically, integrate that with the data feeds from these other systems that we extract to be able to update and create those tasks, as well as end them, as I mentioned earlier, when they're completed. So I'm not sure if I got to your question, but I prefer the kind of ability to equally play with anyone who might be in our product lineup, and take on the technical integration, which hasn't been really difficult. I mean, I mentioned we have a good team, but at the same time, I don't think what they're doing is a ton of development time to integrate.
Yeah. So let me thank you. Let me try to add a little context and see if I've got this right. Sort of from an iteration perspective, you guys are starting with those kinds of tasks we were discussing. So something out of an SIS or an ERP, something like that. However, over time, you're also, I think, hoping that tasks can be generated from the learning management system. There are obviously student success systems that will give people a task. Hey, you should go see the tutoring center or the writing center or whatever. Maybe right. Advising systems. And really, in your, as you've worked with us to build this and help create it, isn't ultimately the idea for all of those to sort of come together in this one spot, so that everybody's got it all in a one-stop shop kind of place? But to your point a minute ago, it's coming from different proprietary systems. Is that fair?
Exactly. I'll even take it a step further. Not only are we trying to integrate tasks to that level, but we've actually already integrated navigation to that level. meaning that within the tools functionality of campus, why should a student need to learn how to navigate the UI of the portal and then have to learn how to navigate the UI of the student information system, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera? So where possible, when supported by deep links or other API capabilities, we've actually just said, forget about the navigation of our ERP system. We're going to create tools specific to every major function that you would need in that system and take you right there from within campus. You can search for it that way, and you don't need to learn about how to navigate their menuing and their kind of web interface once you're there. You can just add the class, pay your bill, whatever it might be. So we're really taking a concerted effort to make campus kind of the one place to not only navigate, to get your tasks, et cetera, to communicate. We're really trying to simplify it.
So before we go on with questions, I just want to mention, if any of that piques your interest, if you have questions about it, if you want to ask Joe, please put them in the chat. We'll address them here as a group together. So don't hesitate to do that. So Joe, I also know that, the last time that we talked, even as we go out sort of again in sort of the art of the possible is the name of the session. So some of the stuff that you're really trying to accomplish or planning to do is some pretty cutting edge thinking with regard to a customer relationship management system. You are trying to bring stuff from your CRM and other systems as well. How do you see Montgomery working with this platform in terms of that CRM work and some of the other stuff you're talking about?
Yeah. So at Montgomery, we have a culture where our users expect us to provide what they need. Not really something that's, they should expect us to do that. But what I mean by that is oftentimes we find as a community college, products were designed for other types of organizations in mind, and they don't exactly meet what we needed to do to support the students in the way we feel is best in the students from the students' perspective. So we end up having to do some customization sometimes. When we looked at student services products, and there are plenty of them out there, student success platforms, whatever, we really came to the conclusion that our culture is more a platform culture where we would want to kind of build something ourselves as opposed to needing to customize and integrate multiple systems from other vendors. So for that reason, we actually landed on the Microsoft Dynamics platform to do this development. We're working with a third-party firm to kind of ramp us up. We actually were able to transition one of our FTE within IT. Someone recently retired and transition that position into a CRM kind of analyst position to do this. But yeah, I see the two very tied together, meaning that, again, sticking to we want to provide users one place to do everything kind of mindset. Well, if I'm in the portal and I need help, how am I going to do that? The CRM is really about managing the help requests once they've been received, which will allow us to escalate them between departments and get some analytics on them, reallocate staff, train staff, create knowledge-based articles, all those things. But how are we going to get the message in the first place? So I want to put that conversation aside for a second. We've also been a partner of a company named Ivy.ai. Ivy is a chatbot company specific to the higher ed market. And not only do they provide the technology, but they provide a really interesting service that ensures that you have a high rate of positive results through the AI engine on searches that students are making through the chatbot. So currently we have this implemented in our external website, our public-facing website, and it answers successfully about 1,000 to 1,500 questions monthly. So it actually has made a big deal. We have a call center, a contact center at Montgomery, and they see the impact of this. Not only does it answer questions automatically, but it has the ability to transition to live chat. So if the user is not happy with the response from the AI engine, the user has the ability to click a button, and then if an agent is available, speak with an agent directly about that. So we're actually currently working with campus to integrate that into our Monco Connect, or the campus platform, so that students can ask that question. But it made us think really heavily about, geez, there's search within campus, there's FAQs within campus. How can we get this all in one experience? And then we have, back to the CRM conversation, this ability to, through a web interface, request a ticket. I'm a student, and neither the chatbot or the live chat was able to help me. Can you just reach out to me? I need some help. So our thoughts currently are to integrate the chatbot with the ticketing system in a way that will allow the sequence. And the sequence would be, we're envisioning what I call a big red button, the I need help button, one place to ask for help. And it first sees, does the AI help you at all? And if that isn't helpful, again, you can transition to live chat. And if that's not helpful, then you can actually transition to the ticketing system and unfortunately ask us to get back to you asynchronously because you need a ticket. Currently at Montgomery, that last part is being done by over 15 email addresses, financial aid at Montgomery County, at mc3.edu, or enrollment services at mc3.edu, et cetera. We're receiving those emails, and it's kind of a mess, not only for the student because A, they have to know the address, but for our staff to kind of manage and sift through all of those incoming requests. So that's our vision of the sequence of help. And as I said, we're trying to work together with campus and Ivy to get that integrated into the platform somehow. But getting back to the conversation about Tallahassee Community College, we're at the same time, as I said, with the award money, trying to create this group where students can also post questions of the group, like kind of crowd help, like where other students or employees of the college can answer through Connect. So we had a lot of thought about that, and it was a difficult conversation, and I'm not sure our answer is the end. And I would really welcome other thoughts on this from anyone who had been thinking about the same topic, but we're hoping we can brand them differently so there isn't confusion, so that a student understands that there's this big red button and I can press it and hopefully get my question answered in that way. And oh yeah, there's this other resource where our mascot is a Mustang, so we're thinking about calling this other resource Ask a Mustang, whether the Mustang is another employee or a student. Then there's this other resource where I can kind of post similar questions and get help as well. We're thinking that there's enough difference in that the group within campus is more emotionally connected, if that makes any sense. It's more like a family. And I could ask a question that might not have anything to do with the college. It might be, I'm looking for a roommate. I need a ride to campus tomorrow, which are really important questions right now when we understand why students are leaving higher ed right now. Often in case it's because life happens, and they could very likely have a question that has, it's about life. It's not about the college. So the chatbot wouldn't know about it, et cetera. So we're hoping there's enough separation between those two concepts that this isn't confusing the students, and they know, oh, I get asked this type question over here, but over here I have this button that I can press and kind of invoke that sequence of resources that may also help me. We're thinking that would be more obvious to be something like related to the operations and the functions and kind of transactional in nature about the college, as opposed to the kind of family of friends that might help us.
So I'd like to just sort of summarize all that if I could. And while I'm doing that, again, if anybody has questions, Angela, if you want to add any color or context to this, same Grant, please do. When I was at St. Leo and we implemented this product as the Chief Innovation Officer, we were trying to go down the same road. We were trying to utilize nudges, tasks, and chatbots and AI and all of those sorts of things to really, our vision of this was a student was basically walking down the road and we would put the right stuff in their way. Mm-hmm. And some of it they could walk over and just step over if they weren't interested, but other things were so big that they had to pay attention. Mm-hmm. And while they're doing that, they're obviously going to have questions. So we wanted them to be able to get those questions answered by their peers, by staff, by faculty, but to your point, even by chatbots. Now, back in 2015, when we were doing this, we were leveraging Microsoft's open source chatbots, and it worked. It was working in the platform. We got it to work, but it was not nearly as robust as what you're describing. Mm-hmm. And I just think of that student success journey that we talked about, in the other session. this really starts to set up the possibility for people to get their needs met, whatever those needs are, whether it's relational, whether it's task-based, whether it's support, whether it's academic, whatever that looks like, that student gets the right thing at the right time. Is that a decent summary of what you're where you're headed?
Absolutely. We've done a lot of investing at Montgomery in basic needs supports. We actually recently invested in a product called Talkspace, where students can get free counseling through their phone, through text and a phone call. We've done a lot with just basic needs over COVID, especially with housing and whatnot. So yeah, there could be a lot of those needs, and we're hoping that this the resource within campus would be a place they can voice those, and we would have resources on the ready to kind of answer some of those questions.
And so I don't know if you can see, it's Elizabeth's question. The AI included will be integrated with campus, right? That will happen inside of campus.
Yeah, so the AI is part of the Ivy.ai product, and we're hoping that somehow I'm envisioning at least some sort of widget that would invoke the Ivy product, but yet also be able to maybe integrate some of the FAQs within campus, the search. That's the part I don't really know yet, and we haven't gotten that far in our conversations. Is how do you ensure that there's consistency in the response? If I search for FAFSA in the campus search, and I search for FAFSA within the chatbot, you want to make sure that there's some consistency there. How do you make that happen? But yes, the AI is part of the engine and part of the product from Ivy.ai.
So just as a point of clarification, for those of you who are not using the FAQs in campus is that today, you can give us your frequently asked questions, obviously with the answers. And as soon as a person begins typing that stem, so what is, or how do I, or where do I, as soon as that happens, they will see a list pop up of any FAQs that begin that way, and they can then pick from the right FAQ, and then it will pop up the correct answer. Now, it's obviously different than having a chat with a bot or a person to get that information. But today, that FAQ stuff is there. Not a lot of our partners use it, I think mostly because people don't have aggregated FAQs yet. It's just a lot of work, I know. But that, just so you guys know, if you're not doing that, that's part of the deal.
Yeah, we find them very useful, actually. Again, we went to folks throughout the college, like, what are the commonly asked questions? And let's make sure that they're in here, because I love that the search within campus is not like specific to tools, specific to groups. It's just search. And I think the expectation of the user from that perspective would be, well, I'm searching for a question. Why am I not getting the answer? I'm asking it, how do I complete my FAFSA, and I'm not getting an answer. So we try to make sure that we have those commonly asked questions. And actually, I don't know, Angela, if we're here yet, but I want to look at the failed, what didn't work, and are people repeatedly asking a question that we don't have an FAQ in there yet for? Because if so, let's create one.
And Joe, to kind of that point, I truly have no idea. You and I didn't talk about this question beforehand. I know that some people are, instead of FAQs, or also with FAQs in addition to, they are leveraging the keyword notifications and the key phrase notifications. We leverage that heavily at St. Leo, sending the phrase "I can't register" directly to our registrar's office, so that they could look to see what was going on and then help that student in real time. And I know that that's yet another way to make sure that you're connecting them with the right support mechanism at the right time. Are you guys leveraging that?
No, not yet. I didn't know that was even a possibility. But that would be awesome to say, send a digest daily or something like that of, like, these are the 5 students that asked about the FAFSA, and reach out to them with our resources on that subject.
I see Grant saying we do both. I think that you're talking about keywords and FAQs. I think that's right. That's TCC. Yeah. So it really is a pretty powerful safety net that you can start to create. And then the addition, of you talking about bringing in your CRM and the chatbots and the nudges and the tasks. I mean, we're really starting to get to a place where we're going to make it much, much harder for a student to fail, which is awesome, right? That's a place to be.
Like you said, they can step over it. Like
Yeah.
you know, our goal is to put it in front of them. If they don't read it, I can't make someone read. But our goal is to make it so that they absolutely know it was there. Or, you know, I think we even have students who say, "Oh yeah, I did see something about that." They know where to go, you know, more often than they did in the past. You know, it's not sifting through a bunch of email. They know it was in their feed somewhere. If they go back and scroll down a little bit, they likely will see it.
Yeah. Oh, well, fantastic. So just so you all know, if you didn't already know this, we asked our presenters to have 45 minutes of content. We're at 45 minutes, and then Q&A if it's appropriate, if people have questions. If not, we can certainly take 15 minutes. You can all, you know, do a bio break, go grab a lunch or something. But any last questions that you have for Joe and anyone else? Well, thanks, Angela. You guys receive a lot of positive feedback from students about the activity feed. That's news. That's good news for us.
Thanks, Grant.
Thanks, Grant. All right. Well, I hope that we'll see you at some of the next sessions. There's another one coming up in 15 minutes, and then there will be one an hour and 15 minutes after that. And then the final session with Chase Williams, our CEO, is going to be giving a roadmap view. And then I'll try to close this out for just 30 minutes by making some announcements that I think people will be excited about for the next conference and some stuff like that. So hope to see you in the next sessions. Thanks for coming, everybody. We'll see you out there.